Okay. All right, is everybody kind of on the site that wants to be? So I guess we'll start. All right, so this is the teacher lesson plan. This is every area of focus is what we call these are all called area of focus, and that's just basically the area, the emotion or the emotion problem that we're going to be talking about. Will be right here, and this is just a numbering system. It doesn't mean much but to keep order. But every area of focus will have a lesson plan, and this is what you will see, and this is just giving you a little bit of information and direction to give your students. So I know y'all know what lesson plans is, I'm just speaking right now. But yeah, it starts with the focus outcomes, and this is what like a pretty broad thing we want students to learn in this lesson, or in this area of focus. And we start every lesson with the definition. And I did that because I just wanted, some people don't, some kids won't know what some of this stuff is. Like who knows what victimization is? They know what a victim is, but they just don't know what the term is. So just giving them a definition will kind of give them, a little bit of a start to what they're going to be learning. And then we have the focus introduction, and this is just something that they can read to get a good, like, this is what I'm going to be learning. And I want to show you what this looks like in Canvas. This is what the students will see. And you can have them read, depending on how you like to teach, you can have them read by themselves, or you can read it out loud. Sometimes that's better because sometimes they just won't read it. At the first, I would probably read it out loud just so that they at least are hearing it. And then your focus outcomes will be at the bottom on that. Where am I? So, growth mindset. Growth mindset is going to be one of the most important parts of this, because if they don't have a growth mindset going in, they're not going to hear any of this. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the growth mindset tomorrow and why it is important for the millennial generation they really need it to actually learn, because the way that their mind works, they get if they get beaten down, they stay down and they won't hear what you're saying. If you ever put someone in a bad mood and then tell them something, are they going to remember it? But we'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. Every growth mindset section has growth mindset questions, and it's just to gauge what they learned from what the growth mindset section has said. And it's almost always 2 questions. It might be 3, but we don't want to, put too much on them with that. And then the teacher guidelines. This is, they look the same for each area of focus, and it's just, here's kind of your path. Like I said yesterday, I never want to tell you guys how to teach. I never want to say you have to do it this way. But I did want to give you guys a little direction, because this is new, and I just, I didn't want to throw you in, because we didn't have this. I don't think we had these last year, and they were asking us like, well, how are we supposed to do this? And I was like, oh, well, I forgot. We didn't give anything to actually do. So your lessons will look like this, and there are, I can't remember how many sections, but we broke them into sections, and I would start with the introduction, because that's just like I said, it's just an introduction to give them kind of just a look at what they're going to be learning. But after that, I wouldn't necessarily say that you have to teach everything in order that we have it. We just have them in blocks just to have order for it. So But that, once again, teacher guidelines, just giving you kind of, this is kind of what you need to do, but, and then outcomes for each student. The how does it affect me personally section is where you're going to be asking your questions, your pointed questions to see what your students have experienced in their life up to this point. So these questions, have you ever felt powerless in your life? And just name one example of a time you felt powerless. And what that gets them to think is like, oh yes, like there has been times that, I've felt like I felt powerless. I haven't felt in control. And that just gets them to get in a mindset of where they're actually thinking about who has taken the power from them in their life. And often that'll be parents, often that'll be, a teacher or something, just whatever. And it just gets them to answer the questions for themselves, because most of the times you may be reading this later, but these questions are really just like self-reflection and just to get them to understand what you're saying. The tools for learning are going to be videos and articles and websites, and they're all pretty official, professional, I guess. I didn't give you any like social media or anything like that, because a lot of that time it's going to be opinion, and those people are not going to be, some of them are, but a lot of the times they're not, they don't have qualifications. So a lot of these videos are from people who have different sets of qualifications. But you can, a lot of the times at our school, we play these at the very beginning of the lesson, even before the introduction, because it's a visual and they can sit and focus. And a lot of the videos are pretty cool that they can watch. And, kids like watching videos now more than they do listening to anything else. So, but each tool will have 2 or 3 questions depending on how long it is and how in depth we want to go. But these can be accessed on, let me get to it. These can be accessed from here, and it just comes up with a you need to open this in a browser. And if we want, we can change that to be embedded, but we were having trouble with this. It wouldn't play the video. It would just like have the screen there and you couldn't get it to come up. So I had them open it in a new browser, and that just will open your article or your
you don't have to get permission before you can watch YouTubes in your school. Any of y'all? Everybody okay? I think they used to do that, and I gave up or something.
Yeah, they did.
All right.
But some of these will be, I use TED Talks a lot because there are some good TED Talks, but a lot of TED Talks are like 30 minutes long, and I know you can't play 30-minute videos. But anyway, I just wanted to show you what it'll look like. And a lot of the time the tools for learning will have a teacher resource, and I talked about that yesterday, but those videos are for you to watch if you want just a little bit more information about the concept that we're going over, or some of them are good videos to show at the beginning so that the kids can get a little bit more, or fun videos or something. But I didn't want to overload on the videos. I didn't want to have like 4 or 5 videos that they have to answer questions, because that'll take up all your time.
Where in the section questions, is there a workbook that they answer?
Yes.
Okay.
And we have a physical workbook that we're giving the option, or we're using Canvas, and they'll all be, I can go back to that.
And while he's doing that, let me tell you this. I would emphasize at the first of the year that the workbook is theirs, but you can look at it. But it's not for public, okay, and it's one of those circle things. I mean, if it's on there, it's just between you and you will not discuss this with anybody else or get their permission. Even another teacher, you don't need to go back and say, well, such and such said that they would like to kill somebody or something, I don't know. That, so you just need to be very careful to have that confidential so that they will answer like what.
I use Google Classroom a lot for some little questions like this in my health classes, and I realized they were more willing to share lots of information.
Yeah.
If they could submit it, no one else
Yeah.
actually picked up a piece of paper.
Well, and I would suggest this too, guys. You're going to have be able to have a copy of the workbook, and there may be some things that you give to them and say, "This is yours. Just answer it. Up to you. You're not turning this in." There's different ways that you can approach that.
And on the lesson plan, there are sections where they will be answering questions on their own, and I give you the option, if you know students who like to talk, who want to tell what they said. Some won't, a lot won't, but if you do have some, you can give them the option and say, does anyone want to read one for the class? And if you're well into the year and you've had circle and students are more comfortable answering, you can ask those questions at this time in the curriculum, or it's really up to you, really up to how you run your classroom. So, but yeah, this isn't how it's going to look. I don't have a student thing for this, so this is how the teachers looks, but that's just how the questions will be.
So if the student, if I'm a student and I have this and I answer that question, where is that stored?
It goes to just, Jessica knows.
A file in your Canvas. So after you ask it, after they answer it, on your view, you'll have a little thing over here that says it's tools, and it'll say, you need to grade these assignments, and you can pull it up that way, or,
Is it inbox?
yeah, I'll find it. That's the quickest way. It'll list it, especially if it's the most recent thing. It'll just have, like yesterday, I had Amber submit some assignments, and it said, need to grade, things to do, need to grade, and then it told me the assignment name.
Okay, so if Nate was using it in her health class and she would be using the whole thing, would she be allowed to put these questions in her Google Classroom so they could just answer it there?
I think so, because before we found Canvas and Moodle, we were using Google Classroom to people would just copy and paste questions in there and ask. So if you have a class and you're not going to use Canvas, you can definitely do that. And that'll just be will just be a file that they upload to you, and you can keep those. But your quote, that was a big. It probably wasn't necessary, but I love quotes, and I think a lot of people, when they read someone that they know say something. Seth Adam Smith, I do not know who that is. It was just a quote that I saw that I thought was pretty important. But sometimes I'll quote Michael Jordan. I'll quote, Gandhi. I'll quote, any writer or historical person. And sometimes if you just see someone that as a very famous person, historical person, and they see someone say something, they'll be like, oh, well, that's cool. I want to learn more about that. And so quotes are really important because it plays off that kind of need to attach to the popular, whatever. So, but each one of those will have 2 or 3 questions in that. Your innovation section will not be in every single lesson. Sometimes there's just cool little things that you can do in your classroom or even in your community that deal with these concepts, and so we have little things that you can do. Or if you come up with your own, if something, you're like, well, sometimes I do this in my classroom anyway. Maybe I'll tell this person who's also in my group, or even if you guys have each other's emails, you can send them to each other, and they can use them. But This one was
Last
just,
year, we asked everybody to send them in so that we could maybe add them to the program. And I think Corey sent one at the first year, and after that, we didn't hear from anybody.
Nobody else joined in, so I thought,
Okay, well, that didn't work.
good enough.
all right.
But we do want you to send anything, like if you've got any kind of
Yeah.
additions, if you've got any kind of innovations, or especially in this section where you've got activities, boy, send those in, because we're still liking to put those in.
Sorry.
So you changed the percent.
What was it?
Oh, look him up. Did you?
Yeah, he's actually he was a writer from Alaska.
Okay.
He survived a suicide attempt in 2006, and then started working in this thing called Healing Comes from Focusing on Others.
Okay.
So
A lot of times on your quotes too, and that's a great, and thank you for bringing that up, because a lot of times on your quotes, you ask them to look up who it is. And that's
it's pretty
important.
neat. You know?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
So his focus shifted, you know.
And that's a good, for victimization, that's a good one, because sometimes people who have depression, like I know I used depression as a crutch for a long time. And so I felt victim. I would say, well, I have depression, I can't do that. And so that's going to be a big one, especially anxiety and depression in younger kids. They're going to say, well, I have anxiety, I can't do that. And so you can't like force that, because mental health disorders are not something that you can just wish away, not something that you can just push away. Often it's chemical imbalance in your brain, and you have to help them get there. But I don't want to. Your mindful moment. This is where you're going to be talking about mindfulness, and we made that a big part of this curriculum, because mindfulness is just huge in separating the emotion from the action, and that's one thing we really wanted to make a big part of our curriculum is how can I teach someone to be able to understand their emotions but not make a impulsive action. And we can go through, we'll show you mindfulness, because like I said, there's so many lessons in mindfulness, and it's just so much that it can be put into. But every mindful moment will have an article, and it's most of the time it's just, this is helping you understand mindfulness, because it is such a broad topic. And then section questions, and there will be a pretty good amount of section questions on a lot of these, because it is just, it's getting them to think about their own brain a lot of the time, and their own emotions, and trying to see, can I separate myself from the impulse to act immediately? And I know that's going to be big for you guys in your classrooms, because if I get hit in the back of the head, I want to turn around and like punch whoever just hit me, and it doesn't even matter what I'm doing or who it is. I just know I've been disrespected, and I have to, your from me to we is going to be your activities, and a lot of these activities will be get up and do something. Some of them will be discussion circles, or even just researching together, but this is where you get your students to get in groups or to partner up, and there is an option on Canvas to make the assignment a group assignment so that they can turn it in as a group. But like the tower, you pair your students up, give them an example scenario of a negative situation, and you can come up with that. I gave a few there, but you can come up with you can come up with a negative situation out of anything. So, and have them explain how someone could accept themselves as a victim, or how they could choose to be empowered, and that just gets them to see the duality, like what's the difference between the two, and how does it make me feel if I was a victim in this situation, or if I was empowered in this situation. And then each one has discussion questions after. And then your research question. Not every one of these will have a research question, because some are just a little bit harder to research. Like, I don't know, I can't give you an example right now, but But have your students research how the phrases "I have to" and "I can't" keep you in a victim mindset. If you type that into Google, you'll have articles that tell you like "I can't" blocks you from doing anything. If I have a "I can't" in my brain, that literally cuts me off. Or "I have to" makes me feel like I'm being forced. There's no power there. If you see "I can't" or I have to, there's no power for you. It's always on someone else. And that actually allows you to shift responsibility onto the other person. And that's a big part of victimization is it's not my fault. I can't do anything about it. And a lot of the times there will be a deeper learning section also, and that's kind of like innovation, but it's just a lot of the times it'll be an extra video or a website that allows you, or Understanding the Brain has a really cool deeper learning where it allows you to play with the brain and see what different parts of the brain do, and how the left-right brain actually is, and sometimes, and that's actually getting to where people are not believing that it's left or right brain, but there's still some, I don't know. No one really knows anything about the brain. Or we come out with a new study every year that says one way or the other, and it's just like Pluto is a planet or it's not, who knows. But deeper learning will be really fun for your students, and it's not, like I said, it's not on every section because a lot of this stuff is still new. But as those things come out, we can send you websites that we find or articles that we see that are really cool that have to do with a certain section. So, and I think that's.
How can you use the research? Give me some creative ways or how you might use that.
Are you talking to me or them? Okay.
How about interventions? How might you use that?
When I come in and we do group therapy or group with the kids, the research questions can base like our activity. We had a similar one to this. We had big poster boards and we had to stick the sticky notes on, which one it is, so it allowed them to work together.
Did you see that on Pinterest?
Probably.
We saw that. Okay.
Probably. I mean, I used that a lot because it was.
That's pretty cool.
Entitlement was on the posters, it was entitlement and
I like
effort
that.
and all those things, and the kids would write down different ideas on the sticky notes and put them on the
I like
poster. It
that.
was a really good activity.
Yeah. We tried that at the ALE conference. I don't know if y'all came by our deal, but we had a big heart. And what was the main problem? Well, it didn't work. We had too many things going on. Nobody did it. But anyway, I saw that on Pinterest and I thought that's pretty good.
It worked if it's something that they've talked about and then we come in and just reinforce it. So like they've done other things to kind of build on it and then we come in with the research question and just reinforce. And it allows for that safe environment to discuss the hard things.
But
about 3 weeks later, and the kid's going, well, I can't do this because my family life. Mm-hmm. Give them the research. Okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go in here, da 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 da.
you can always revert back to lessons. You can always, if you didn't get a chance to show them a video, and they're having problems still, you can say, well, watch this video, and it'll give you a little bit of a different viewpoint than we've actually gone through. But what I really wanted to say is how many different learning styles did you guys see in there? You have visual, writing, reading, action, and like I said, the way that science comes out with research every year, it's like I don't know how to pinpoint things, but in our Understanding Your Brain, we go through learning styles, and we're trying to figure out. And some of the kids know theirs, but a lot of them don't. So we actually go through and say like, there's an assessment that you can take, and it's ask questions to say, and so that's why we tell you, or we advise you to do the Understanding Your Brain at the very beginning, because it does learning styles, it does personality types, and it does mental health, and And
Utopia Learning Styles? Are you going to Utopia Learning Styles? Is that
it was a, what is it?
Utopia Learning Styles?
I don't think so. If that's a better one, I have one now that I found that it was, it worked and it was free. Okay. But there were like 8, and it was basically 4 and 4. Like you were one or the other, one or the other, one or the other, but you had 4 different learning styles, but you were either one or the other. And I was like, oh well, that's really cool, because like sometimes the visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and all those are a little too broad, because like I may use both. I may use kinetic and auditory or anything, and so I may not be one or the other. Well, this broke it down to more like I learn globally, or I learn like I don't know. I want to go find that and show you guys, but it was really cool, and I was like, oh well, that's going to help them a lot better than just saying, well, you learn auditory. You just hear it and you learn it, and be like, well, that's not always true. So there are cool ways in the curriculum that you can help your students figure out more about themselves. The personality types. I want to preface this by saying that we tell them not to, because the Myers-Briggs personality types is sometimes a little too boxy. Like, we don't want them to say, oh, I'm just this. I'm only this. So we say at the beginning, say like, this is what you are now, but you can grow. Because I think I was at one time INTJ or something, and now I'm INTP. I've just shifted my focus in different ways. So so we do make it a big point of saying, like, you don't have to stay this way, but this is just how you're assessing now. And it's just so cool, because they can go read and say, like, I remember reading my Myers-Briggs for the first time and saying like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like that's why I act that way. So this is why I do this. So yeah, so we do have cool things like that, but that is the first lesson for that. If you guys have any questions for me.
Okay, I do. The Canvas, I'm trying to envision, so do your students join Canvas, or they only see what you put on, or do you assign?
Yes, you can add.
Because I have no experience with that besides what little bit of experience I have with Google Classroom, and you give them assignments, but they can't see the whole.
No. They can. You add them to certain things. I don't think they can't see.
Add them to your class, and you either unpublish, which is the shape of a little cloud right next to the lesson.
Right there.
You unpublish the ones you don't want them to see yet. And so like the night before the assignment, you could publish it, and then they can see the lesson.
And
or if you schedule a time for the assignment, if you say, well, I want this assignment to be due September 1st, that's when I want it to open, and here's when I want it to close, then they won't be able to see it until that assignment.
Yeah, it's right there. You come in, and right now it's assigned to everyone, but you can X out of that, and you can add groups. So if you create a group.
The whole thing that you just showed us, or they don't only see the student assignment?
The lesson plan,
They only see the students.
they only see the assignments. I unpublish all of the lessons.
Yes. Yeah. We did that. I put the lesson plans on there because I didn't know how we were getting you guys the lesson plans. So I really put those on because like I said, I just wanted to make sure that they were there. But they won't be able to see that. They won't be able to see anything that you guys are seeing in the lesson plan. So
Guys, we use Google Classroom for the last 3 to 4 years. And it was frustrating for us with the questions that the kids were having to do, because we were having to copy and paste and put them on Google Drive. This should be so much easier, Great. It should be, if you give it a little bit
It's
of
very
shot.
user-friendly.
Yeah.
once you get it.
And then you said, I think yesterday, you can go in there and assign how much you want it to be.
yes. Yeah. Here, I'll go.
So you can turn it on.
You come in, and there's your text, and you can Try not to change any of that. But yeah, you can come down here and assign points, or you can change it to percentage, complete, incomplete, letter grade, GPA scale, whatever.
Complete, incomplete for the 5
And that's what I would really, because I don't know if you really want to make it like points, like, oh, you failed this because you didn't answer it right. Well, what is right and wrong in answering something? It's really like, did they give you like a weak answer?
Did they put no?
Did they put effort in? Yeah. Did they say one word? So you can definitely change that there. And then this, I don't know, I wouldn't really change it unless you just want to do it on paper. You can change it to that, but most of the time this is just easy because they can open a text box, write it, submit it, and you get it.
So are all of your other classes now on Canvas versus Google Classroom, or you still have?
All of ours,
Not our academic classes.
No. Those are the where she configured.
I don't know. I would
We might
class over to it.
we might do it.
To Canvas?
To Canvas.
Yeah.
That's what I was.
we are.
Last year's the first experience I really had with Google Classroom, and it worked. I've used it some, but I know.
This is a cool thing
I
that
don't like it. I don't like Google Classroom. And Jessica always did all my stuff, because I just didn't, I got a little, this should be so much better. Because we thought about putting this on Google Classroom for everybody. Last year, we talked about that and showed you how to do it on Google Classroom. This just should be so much better.
and this is cool.
We're gonna have to, can you wrap up?
Yeah, I was going to say this is cool. I don't know if you guys use peer reviewing, if you let your students,
It wasn't.
and actually I don't know I don't know about this because I don't know if you want to see. Yeah.
Get attention, because they need to hear this.
Well, no, I changed my mind because you don't want them reading other people's answers on this.
Okay.
If you start using Canvas for your other classes, which I don't know if you can or not, they do have.
Buy a right, you
Yeah.
By what?
don't have to buy the rights.
Mark, yeah, never mind. And on there you can set it where, if you want to, and I don't know that you use the peer review
For this, I don't think so because we don't want them seeing each other's answers on this kind of stuff.
Classes, you can even have it where they have to get 2 peers to review it, or you can assign 2 peers that have to review what they're doing.
I think I had to do that in high school.
It's kind of like on Blackboard when they do the Blackboard discussion.
Well, and then they
College.
have a discussion.
I was going to say I used Blackboard in college and it was pretty easy.
I think it's a really good question that I don't know the answer to. What if my school had teachers that wanted to use Canvas for world history? How is you contact them and is there a license purchase? Is it a free online platform? What is the way that we can
It
allow
is
that?
a free online platform.
Really?
Now, they do have programs where you pay for it, and that gives you more support from them, but they just go to canvas.com, right, .com, and there's a section that says try it for free. And
Canvas
you sign up,
Instruction.
and then you have it.
Canvas
Instruction.
is pretty interesting. When we started talking to them, I started talking to them, they started at 25,000. And we whittled it down to 0.
Attaboy.
But,
Can you help me buy a car?
but it's like, finally, he whittled it all the way down to say, it's a salesperson, they're there to make money, and I understand that, but he whittled it down to 5,000, which was just the training. Well, I mean, obviously, I've got 2 here that can train and know what's going on with it. And so he said, okay, well, there is a free version. So we got on it and trained ourselves and didn't participate. But here's what I will tell you. It's worth it. It may be worth it once we go nationwide, which hopefully will be next year.